Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Newsround for Anfield Index. It is Tuesday, the 5th of August, just after, not too many hours after, actually, when you think about it, Liverpool played Atletico Bilbao, or as they prefer to be known, the Athletic Club, twice, didn't they? Their 5 o'clock and the 8 o'clock kickoff, which we learned a lot from. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about things off the pitch, as ever, of course we will. We'll be talking about maybe who was even in the stands or not, as the case may be. There is so many things going on with Liverpool right now, but it's good to talk about football still at the same time. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from pretty glorious outside, actually. There was a storm in Edinburgh yesterday, and it might be a little bit windy, but right now, as I look outside, the sun is shining. So fingers crossed wherever you are basking in exactly the same thing. But let's talk about all the things that happened yesterday evening, all the things that might be going on today at the same time as well. But there is only one place to start. He was back. The King was back. Liverpool were back. Two Liverpools were back, weren't they, in these games? The 4-1 in the 5 o'clock kickoff, that was a victory. And the 3-2, which, is it fair to say, I think I can, was more the first team, wasn't it, in the second game? And we learned different things from it. We were impressed by different players. We saw different things. And Arne Slot had plenty to say more than anyone else. I don't know if anyone clocked his post-match comments that were quite interesting in certain bits. So probably just a few that I wanted to pick out. He was asked about on improving as a side and said, I think there's always room for improvement in every department. Like I said, and this is a phrase, we've added a few, in my opinions, extra weapons. So Florian, as inverts, has a lot of creativity in the final third. We've lost a certain player. And where's the bit that I wanted to? Yeah, I think Flo's. Yeah, there we go. I think Flo has this quality as well in a totally different position. But he brings that creativity, the pace of Hugo, the pace of both fullbacks, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong today. And I think I'm almost going to go in reverse because I want to talk about the second game first of all, because I think that's more the first team lineup, as you saw. I think there was more, bar Alexis McAllister, who's naturally recovering from an injury, what you believe the first team lineup is going to be most likely. I like the way he singled out the fullbacks a little bit as well. Thought Milos Kerkez had a very decent game. And there's a stat then from his Hungarian counterpart, Ben Boxak, saying Milos Kerkez won the most tackles for and was the most accurate passer, 95% on his Anfield debut. He won 5 out of his 6 duels and 100% of his tackles. Like I said, he is going to be a fan favourite. And thinking when Pesci was in goal as well, we were never going to hear the end of Boxak and his Hungarian ramblings. But shout out to Ben, he knows it's all friendly anyway. So, yeah, absolutely, Milos Kerkez looks solid. Frimpong. Now, tell me if you think any differently on this, because I said this to a few mates, actually messaged them as we were watching the game. I can't think of a player with a faster standing start. Probably not over 100 metres, but that first 10 into 20 meters, that acceleration is just insane. Absolutely insane. So you saw it from an attacking perspective. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But this is important to say. Yes, Bilbao scored 2 off set pieces, but Nico Williams, did anyone see the stats? Anyone watch the game naturally? He did not get much change out of Frimpong. I thought I saw a few bits where, maybe more importantly, in a way, I was impressed defensively with him at the same time. Listen, there was 1,000,001 players that I was impressed with, throughout the course of late afternoon into evening. But in this game, I mean, Mo Salah, penalty, mate, you laughed about it. We all did. But how good were some of the passes he put through? Hugo Ekitike, an assist already. Yeah, that little bit of an acceleration. Hugo Ekitike, a number 9 that stays on side, seems to read the game and link at times. So much to like that. Florian Wirtz, how much was he involved in build-ups, clever passing? Maybe just, because you've got to be, fair, and it is only pre-season, so you've got to not wax lyrical, but be balanced. Maybe just the final pass wasn't quite on it today for him, but you still saw the moments of quality, the control, and so unlucky with that header, wasn't it, that went over at the same time. Cody Gakpo, is that a hat-trick? Yeah, we'll call it an odd hat-trick, but still amongst the goals, isn't he? So there, the midfield, thought Dominic Szoboszlai looked brilliant in that number 8 role. Continues to almost grow that. I know it's pre-season. Grav looked good as well. So many things to like about that second game. In terms of the very first game, the 4-1, there was a few impressive players, wasn't there? Mainly the kids that we're talking about. As we tweeted there from the official Anfield Index account, Trey Naomi had a phenomenal game for us. Most clearances, 4 in the match. 74 passes completed, second most on the pitch. Won half his duels. Playing at centre-back, which is not his natural position at all. But what really impressed me about this kid, clearly being asked to do a job, reads the game so well. You saw there was one time where they were attacking and he kind of was waiting to go. It was like a 2-on-1 and just read it and nipped in at the same time. That was almost, in a way, one of the few moments in the game that really impressed me in that first one. So shout out to Trey there. I get, though, and I totally understand this, everyone's going to be talking from the first game about Rio and Gamoa. Of course they are. Because when you pick up the ball pretty much on halfway and do that dribble and put it in the bottom corner on, the first minute, second minute, wherever it was, everyone's going to get excited. Where you genuinely are a threat and they almost have to double up against you to protect the Bilbao fullback at 16, nearly 17. It's just insane. Even the composure for the second, just to nod it down so Darwin Núñez can tuck it into the bottom corner. Absolutely great. Naturally, there are things that we hope, and we got a few other bits, didn't we? Virgil was ill. Ali's still with it, his other half. So, they're expected to be back for the Community Shield, so nothing too much to worry about there. Connor Bradley being injured. Doesn't sound too bad at all. And touch and go, as Onslaught phrased it, for the start of the new season. Joe Gomez, similar as well. But it's just another injury for Connor Bradley. And I like him. I think he's got all the talent in the world. He is a player. But I think even the most ardent Red would be honest and say that injury record already, there are just a few question marks around it. It does almost, as someone texted me, that seemed habitual. So we'll see what develops there. The only other things I really wanted to speak about from the first game, he went and applauded all 4 sides of the ground, didn't he? At the end, Harvey Elliott. Now, people will say he's done that in many games, which is true, as do others. Couldn't disagree with that. However, I think as many at the game and many who saw it just thought, is this the fairly well? Is this the, last time as many thought we may see Harvey Elliott in a Liverpool kit at Anfield? Because there's a couple of weeks and more, isn't there, until that opening game against Bournemouth. And there's various links for Harvey Elliott, even from German sources, I should say, saying that if Red Bull Leipzig do sell Benjamin Sesko and, who we're going to talk about shortly, and Xavi Simons, that Harvey Elliott may well come back onto their radar as well. Spurs also being linked with Harvey Elliott at the same time. Remember, they're set to sell Son to Los Angeles FC, aren't they? And James Maddison's also picked a terrible injury up. It's not the only one as well. I mentioned yesterday about Darwin Núñez and the Ornstein bomb and all the other stories around Al Hilal and other PIF clubs being interested in Darwin Núñez. The tap of the badge, a different thing. It did just feel like a farewell from both those players. And this is not terrible to say in any way, but you look at the attacking reinforcement. I don't think anyone really sees their future at Anfield. That does not make them bad players, but both are in a World Cup year. Both will be wanting to get more first team minutes. It just doesn't feel like that's going to be at Anfield, doesn't it? So we'll see if anything comes up more on that pair. Speaking of departures, well, there's Tyler Morton. He landed in Lyon yesterday afternoon, didn't he? Looks like the weather is glorious there. All the reports are that Tyler Morton has done the first part of his medical at Lyon. So whether that got done yesterday, the second part, and, some will be done today. But we're expecting, probably, if we're honest, an announcement at some point later today, aren't we, that Tyler Morton is a Lyon player. And again, now, according to some reports across the UK from Paul Joyce and others, again, different on the Lyon side, but up to £15 million with a sell-on clause, which I think you've got to be honest, is brilliant business for Liverpool, especially getting that sell-on clause in there as well. Tyler Morton is a fantastic player. You saw how good he was in the Under-21 Championships, got the assist for the winner in the final, didn't he, as well? I do think he could be brilliant for Lyon. Probably what most want to know, and it might take a bit of time for this to, I suppose, see if there's any legs in it. Does this mean anything for Malik Fofana? Because we're doing business now with Lyon, aren't we? So funnily enough, if there is going to be anything in that, of course, that's going to come up in the talks. Everyone's waiting to see if that develops. However, people will also say things like, speaking of young attackers, Rio Ngamoa, Ben Doak. I've got my doubts on the second one, don't get me wrong, on whether his future's at Anfield, but it's going to take time to unfold. We'll see if we get anything more today on either of those. Probably the biggest kind of link last night, and this is always a funny one, to be honest, but I'll actually start there. Various reports that Alexander Isak's agents, or one of his agents, Gonzalo Gaitin, I think it's pronounced, I'm probably butchering that name, who's also worked with a Serbian gentleman whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, who both represent Alexander Isak, was at Anfield last night. Now, this is important to say. Various reports say no, it was Will Wright's agent, and photos because that young lad came on. Others showing other photos saying it definitely is him. I don't know either way, but there are reports that Isak's agent was at Anfield last night. Being genuinely honest on this, it's another sort of bit of fruit into the flavour, isn't it? But I'm not really sure it matters too much. I think we all know where this is going and what's going to happen. And it only got elevated further last night, didn't it? Where late last night, the tweet came through, another David Ornstein bomb, Newcastle United make improved bid to Red Bull Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko. The new offer's worth at least 80 million after positive talks between the clubs and with the 22-year-old striker. There's nothing agreed, but Red Bull currently favour Newcastle because, in simple terms, Manchester United haven't made a proposal yet. And I might be wrong, but I think we're moving to the end game with this now, aren't we? Because all this talk about United are going to make a bid. Well, they've not managed to sell any of the players that will enable them to do that yet, haven't they? Rasmus Højlund has turned down multiple moves. They can't sell Garnacho. And all Newcastle are doing is moving it higher and higher, which makes it tougher and tougher for United to get in there. And they're talking to the club. They're talking to the player. As David Ornstein says, the Reuben family, part owners of Newcastle, are really taking charge of that and having the talks there. I'd be a little bit surprised if we don't see a positive development in terms of what we want. And naturally, Fabrizio Romano also tweeted late last night, it's now a €90 million package, which, by the way, is a ridiculously inflated fee for Benjamin Sesko. But here we are, €80 million plus 10 million add-ons on the table. There's no decision yet for the player, but everyone's going to push this soon, aren't they? Benjamin Sesko, Red Bull Leipzig, Manchester United are all going to have to make decisions on what they are or aren't doing very, very shortly. And I think we all know where this is going because in simple terms, United just don't have this type of money without doing a sale right now. There's nothing imminent. And ultimately, as we all want, and maybe it's wishing, I don't know, but I suspect this goes away. And because of the way it's going to go, well, there'll be a certain Newcastle forward arriving at Anfield any day soon. Maybe, just maybe, because of the acceleration and the time, what are we, Tuesday? Maybe a chance before the Charity Shield. Now, in terms of other things from last night, it's important to say, linking to today, we will be on a couple of things. I'll have David Lynch on Media Matters around lunchtime. Me and Trev will be doing the transfer show. We have got a few things to sort of check on today. Centre-backs, I think, is a big one, isn't it? Because when Virgil was ill, all of a sudden you saw Robbo playing at centre-back with Train Ione, Canate with Endo. I mean, that's only one recognised senior centre-half there in the first place. Liverpool need at least one more centre-back to come through the door, which in fact is probably a bigger priority than anything attacking-wise for me right now. Simple as that. However, it's important to say, as we will be discussing on the transfer show, there is a new name on the docket. There's a couple of defenders. It's not just Mark Gay that Liverpool are looking at. And I think it's important to mention, I did wonder about this. There was various reports from numerous UK journalists that Newcastle are back in the mix for Mark Gay, which does make you wonder that both Liverpool and Newcastle are in the mix for Mark Gay. Is there maybe some sort of, I don't know what you call it, horse trading, shall we say, that allows Newcastle to make that move possibly? It might not be. We're guessing a little bit. We're going to have to see. But the fact that those reports are coming up, again, just a little bit to the flavour around what's developing. But we'll be talking about that on the transfer show again, where there's a new name in the mix for the centre-backs. Liverpool are definitely looking and definitely shopping around. That's all I can really say on Anfield Index. And not that that's a big secret, because we need a centre-half so badly. Honestly, it is Tuesday, the 5th of August. There is a lot going on from ourselves, other clubs. The Reds are busy on the pitch, off the pitch. Everything winds up now towards, it is the first trophy of the season. You have to say that, however serious you take it. The Community Shield on Sunday. We'll see if we get any more developments today. But there we go. On Tuesday, the 5th of August, that was another news round for Anfield Index.